Dear students, good morning. This is the class for April 29, 2020 for Lingue e Letterature Comparate 2. So let's go back to what we were doing on Monday. Okay, give me a second. Just let me scroll up and I'll get right back to you. Yes, okay. So on Monday we started Unit 3 of your semantics book, and we're looking at the difference between reference and sense. Actually, we started from proposition. Yeah, okay. We looked at the difference between utterance, sentence, and then we started off with proposition. And I said that you have to imagine a proposition as the meaning of an utterance, okay, as a sort of idea. And we did some exercises on that. And we started Unit 3 about reference and sense. And after this entry test, I gave you the definition of reference. So reference are actually things that are in the real world. So they can be both people or objects that are being talked about. My son is in the beech tree. We said that my son is identifying a person. The beech tree is identifying a thing, okay? They're referring to something. These words are referring to something in the real world. And with some exercises, we saw that there are some references that are constant, okay? There are some things that have constant reference. If you're talking about the moon, no matter whatever language you're using, it's still indicating one referent. It's unique, a unique referent. But that's not always the case. Then we looked at the word sense. Okay? That, for now, I told you to interpret it as the word meaning. And we can talk about the word sense, not only just for a word, but also for sentences or phrases. You have to watch out because some words can have more than one sense. And we looked at the example of bank. That can be bank as an institution or bank as part of a river. Okay, as you can see, it's very practical. You would go through the exercises to understand what I'm talking about. And this is where we stopped. And we looked at the difference between referent and sense, saying that the referent of an expression is often a thing or a person, but the sense of an expression is not a thing at all. Okay, it's abstract. Now look at this rule. Every expression that has meaning has sense, but not every expression has a referent. Okay? Remember that this roughly means meaning, and referent has to do with the real world. With that said, look at this practice. Do the following words refer to things in the world? Almost, probable, and, if, and above, based on what I just said here. So we can say that none of these words have a referent in the real world. Okay, they don't refer to things. You can't see almost. You can see a cat, but you can't see almost. And this is what exactly this word was, what exactly this rule is talking about. Every expression that has meaning has sense, but not every expression has a referent. So I can say that almost, probable, and if have sense, but nope, they don't have a referent in the real world. Okay, so that's the difference between referent and sense. Now let's see what they want from you here with this other practice. When you look up the meaning of a word in a dictionary, what do you find there? It's referent or an expression with the same sense? Is it a dictionary? Is a dictionary full of words or full of things? Like a box or a sack? Could a foreigner learn the meanings of his very first words of English by having their typical reference pointed out to him? Could a foreigner learn the meanings of his very first words of English by looking them up in an English dictionary? Okay, so let's go back to number 1. What do you find in a dictionary? Reference or an expression with the same sense? Obviously, we said that reference are objects, concrete things, so no, you find an expression with the same sense. And, of course, dictionaries are full of words. And number 3, yes, a person can learn English by having typical reference pointed out at them, and repeating what they're called in English. Okay, so I can point at a cat again and say cat, and the person will understand that what I'm saying, the word cat, is the name of that thing that I'm pointing at. And then number 4, obviously not. A foreigner cannot learn the meanings of his very first words in English just looking them up in an English dictionary. Next comment that is not related to what we've done so far, but it adds further information about propositions, is that propositions correspond to a complete independent thought. Okay, a complete independent thought. So what do you think? Are the following expressions propositions or not? Johnny got a new teacher. A new teacher, just like that. No verb, no nothing. Johnny. And number 4, this is the house that Jack built. Johnny got a new teacher. Is the sentence a proposition? Yes, it is, because it expresses a complete independent thought. A new teacher and Johnny. Are these propositions? No, because it's not a complete independent thought. And number 4, this is the house that Jack built. Yes, this is a proposition because it's a complete thought. Okay, let's go on. Imagine that a friend of yours says to you, John is putting on weight these days. And then imagine that a friend of ours, well, ours, not an inclusive our, but the author's, a friend of the authors of the book, happens to utter the same sentence. Okay, so there's a friend of ours classroom, and a friend of the authors. And they say, John is putting up weight these days. Would this be a case of one utterance or two? And would the John referred to be the same John or two different Johns? Obviously, you actually don't need too much time to think about that one. But of course, they are two utterances, two acts of saying something, and we're probably not referring to the same John. So why did they make us do this previous exercise, this previous practice? Because the idea behind it is that for two separate utterances, John is putting up weight, there are two separate acts of referring. In the first case, we're referring to one John. For the second case, we're referring to another John. So when we are referring, when we're doing an act of reference, we are picking out a particular referent in the course of a particular utterance. Okay, so even if the name is John, there are two different referents. Let's see, and please tell me if I'm going too fast, okay? What is intended by the word mean or meaning in the following examples? Is it reference or sense? Let me slide this one downwards so that you get what I'm, the title of the exercise with it. So you have to say whether the word mean or meaning, whatever, in these examples is referring to reference or sense. When Helen mentioned the fruitcake, she meant that hard rock object in the middle of the table. So is this word mean meant? used for reference or sense. When Albert talks about his former friend, he means me. Daddy, what does unique mean? Purchase has the same meaning as buy. Look up the meaning of apoplexy, in your dictionary. If you look out of the window now, you'll see who I mean. Okay, so check if there's anything missing, if you got them all. And no. Number 1. In this case, the word mean is used for reference. And it's the same for number 2. Okay, reference. For number 3 and number 4, the word mean is referring to sense. And the same thing is for number 5. So 3, 4, and 5, sense. And then number 6, if you look out of the window now, you'll see who I mean. It is using the word mean for reference. Okay. So this means that the word mean can have the meaning of reference or sense. And that's the end of Unit 3. If you want further exercises or a review of this unit, if you bought the book, you can do that. Otherwise, it's fine. If you don't have the book, don't worry about it, because you know that I usually review what we do during the class at the end of the class and at the beginning of the following one. But anyway, this is the end of Unit 3. Okay, now oops, sorry for that. And now let's go here for unit second week. Oh, not your second week. And you're going to unit 4 about referring expressions. Referring expressions. Let's see what happens with the entry test. You know how this works. You answer the questions. If there's anything missing, go back to the previous classes. Otherwise, fine, go ahead. So let's look at the following questions. Give an example of an expression that might be used to refer to the President of the United States in 2007. If you don't remember who the President of the United States was in 2007, perfectly fine. Just do your research and then get back. Give an example of an expression that could have variable reference. And then give an example of an expression that always has constant reference. Give an example of different expressions having one referent. And then give an example of an expression that has no reference at all. And then number 6, which of the following is a correct description of the word reference? Circle your choice. A relationship between expressions and other expressions which have the same meaning. B, the set of all objects which can potentially be referred to by an expression. And C, a relationship between a particular object in the world and an expression used in an utterance to pick that object out. Okay. So let's look at that. Sorry. Okay, 1. Give an expression, the President of the United States, Bush. Okay. An example that could have variable reference. Gave you the word John, could mean one John or another John. Number 3, a constant reference, moon, sun. An example of different expressions having, this is what I said, yes. Is this one? No. Give an example of different expressions having one referent. Again, chat, cat, gatto, okay? Of having no reference, number 5, propositions, for instance. Prepositions, sorry. At, to, of. And then I would say that for C, a good description is the relationship between a particular object in the world and an expression used in an utterance to pick that object out. Actually, no. For number 4, looking at the feedback now. Give an example of different expressions having one referent. In this case, we could say George W. Bush and the President of the United States in 2007, because they both have the same referent. So we said that referent is the concrete thing or person. And so a referring expression is any expression used in an utterance to refer to something or someone used with a particular referent in mind. Sorry for the interruption. Let me get a second. So where were we? Okay, yeah. Yes, so there are referents that are the concrete objects or people, and referring expressions that are the expressions that are used to refer to something or someone with a particular referent in mind. What does this mean? Let's look at the example. So the name Fred in an utterance such as Fred hit me, where the speaker has a particular person in mind when he says Fred, is a referring expression. Okay, so somebody says Fred hit me. They're not going to say that out of the blue. They have a specific Fred in mind. Okay, so that means that Fred is a referring expression. But let's say that I say something like Fred that I say there's no Fred at this address. This is not a referring expression because in this case, the speaker doesn't have a particular Fred in mind when he's uttering the word. Okay, so there's no Fred, could be anybody. Fred hit me, it has a specific referent. So that's what they mean when they say that a referring expression is an expression used to refer to something or someone used with a particular referent in mind. Practice. Could these words or set of words be used as a referring expression? John, my uncle, and the girl sitting on the wall by the bus stop, a man, my parents, send, or under. So we can say that number 1, John. Number 2, my uncle. Number 4, the girl sitting on the wall by the bus stop. Number 5, a man. Number 6, my parents, can all technically be used as referring expressions because they have a referent in the real world. They could have a referent in the real world. The thing is that with indefinite noun phrases, the same expression can be used as a referring expression or not, depending on the context. Let that sink in. Okay, maybe I'm going too fast, but these are things that you have to think about and let them sink in. With indefinite noun phrases, like a man, the same expression can be used as a referring expression or not, depending on the context. What does this mean? Let's look at the practice. When a speaker says, a man was in here looking for you last night, is a man being used to refer to a particular man? Number 2. So, in the above example, is a man a referring expression? When a speaker says, the first sign of the monsoon is a cloud on the horizon, no bigger than a man's hand. Is a man being used to refer to a particular man? Is a man in this example a referring expression? Is a man, is 40 buses used in 40 buses have been withdrawn from service by the Liverpool Corporation a referring expression? And is 40 buses used in the engine has the power of 40 buses a referring expression? Okay, so good. Let's see. Number one, is a man referring to a particular man? Yes, it is. And so it is a referring expression. But the same man here in number three is not referring to a particular man. So it is not a referring expression. In number five, 40 buses. 40 buses have been withdrawn. Yes, it's a referring expression because they have specific 40 buses in mind. And then number six, the engine has the power of 40 buses. No, this is not a referring expression because it does not have, the speaker does not have a particular object in mind. Okay, so remember that with indefinite noun phrases, the same expression can be or cannot be a referring expression, might not be a referring expression depending on the context. Same thing with this other practice. Are the following referring expressions? Number one, a Norwegian in Nancy married a Norwegian. Number two, a Norwegian used in Nancy wants to marry a Norwegian. Number three, a car used in John is looking for a new car, for a car. Number four, a man with a limp used in Dick believes that a man with a limp killed Bo Peep. A man with a limp used in a man with a limp killed Bo Peep. And the last one, a swan used in every evening at sunset, a swan flew over the house. So let's see. Number one, Nancy married a Norwegian. Yes, because it's talking about a specific Norwegian. Number two, Nancy wants to marry a Norwegian. Well, this depends on how you interpret the sentence, because it could be any Norwegian, and in that case, it's not a referring expression. But if the person knows a specific Norwegian and knows that Nancy wants to marry that specific Norwegian, yes, it is a referring expression. John is looking for a car. No. Okay, so yes, the feedback says yes and no. It depends on how you interpret the sentence. If John is looking for whatever car, for any car, in that case, it's not a referring expression. But if he has a particular car in mind, yes, you have to interpret that car as a referring expression. Number 4, no, this is not. Again, I don't agree with. Yeah, okay. So again, same thing. Number 4, Dick believes that a man with a limp killed Bo Peep. It depends on, obviously, on how you interpret the sentence, okay? Because maybe he has a specific person in mind, or maybe not, it's just generic. A man with a limp killed Bo Peep, number 5. Yes, this is a referring expression. And then number 6. Every evening at sunset, a swan flew over the house. A swan referring to a specific swan or a generic swan, and so it can be yes or no. As you can see, I had to look at the feedback because I don't know why, but my mind for 4, 5, and 6 went to actually 3, 4, and 6. My mind went automatically to interpreting them as referring expressions, as if they were they 100% always had a referent in mind. But as you can see from the feedback, it really depends on how you interpret the sentence. So what's the trick to remove ambiguity from these sentences? You can add the word certain after the indefinite article. And in that way, it definitely is a referring expression because it's referring to something precisely to one object or to a person. For instance, how do they apply this rule? Saying Nancy wants to marry a certain Norwegian. Came a tongue twister for me. In that case, I know that this person has a specific referent in mind. And the same thing happens for John is looking for a certain car. Okay. So let's see. Are the following feedback away? Are the following referring expressions? John in John is my best friend. He in he is a very polite man. Said by a husband to his wife in a conversation about their bank manager. the word it in "it's sinking" used in a conversation about a battleship which has just been attacked. And for the man who shot Abraham Lincoln, in "The Man Who Shot Abraham Lincoln" was an unemployed actor. So in all these cases, they are all referring expressions because the people who are uttering these sentences have a specific referent in mind. And let's look at this last practice for today. Are the following expressions referring expressions? He in "if anyone ever marries Nancy, he's in for a bad time." Meaning whoever marries Nancy is in for a bad time. The word "it" in "every man who owns a donkey beats it." The person who did this in "the person who did this must be insane." Spoken by someone on discovering a brutally mutilated corpse, where the speaker has no idea who committed the crime. And number 4, Smith's murderer in "Smith's murderer must be insane." Uttered in circumstances like the above where the corpse is Smith's. So, number 1, he is not a referring expression. There's nobody specific. The same thing can be said for number 2, beats it. And also number 3 and 4. Number 3, the person who did this is generic. It's not a referring expression. And Smith's murderer, yes. Yes, it is, because it is a referring expression because it's referring to Smith. Let's see what the feedback says. Okay, so for number 3 and number 4, it could be argued that the person who did this is not a referring expression in this example. Okay, obviously it depends on the context. If you know Smith and you know who they're talking about, yes. Otherwise, no. Okay, so as you can see with referring expressions, it really depends on the context in which these sentences are uttered. But that's enough for today, perché sento odore di cervello fritto abbastanza. Già da fino a qua lo sento, anche attraverso il video sento il cervello fritto. Quindi, what did we do today? For today, we finished Unit 3. Okay, we looked at the difference between referent and sense. We said that every expression that has a meaning has sense, but not every expression has a referent. Okay, we said that prepositions, for instance, don't have reference, even if they make sense. We said that propositions must be a complete independent thought. Okay, Johnny is not a thought, but Johnny has a new teacher is a proposition. We said that when you are referring to something, you are picking out a particular referent in a context. And then as we started Unit 4, we looked at referring expressions. And we said that a referring expression is any expression that is used to refer to something with a particular reference in mind. Okay? In order to be a referring expression, you have to have a specific referent. If not, it's not a referring expression. And we did tons of exercises about this. The trick to understand if an indefinite noun phrase is or is not a referring expression is to use the word certain right before the preposition. So a Norwegian, a certain Norwegian. And that's where we stopped. Okay, so today's song is Shiny Happy People. So shiny happy people laughing. Meet me in the crowd, people, people. Throw your love around. Love me, love me. Take it into town. Happy, happy. Put it in the ground where flowers grow. Gold and silver shine. Shiny happy people holding hands. Shiny people laughing. Everyone around, love them, love them. Put it in your hands, take it, take it. There's no time to cry. Happy, happy. Put it in your heart where tomorrow shines. Gold and silver shine. And it repeats, and it repeats, and it repeats. Let me get the link for you. No, I didn't want to go to there. Here is the link. Let me put it here. Nancy, blah, blah, blah. Where is he? This white man. We did this, see? Yeah, we did that. Not this. Okay, so we stopped here. This is the link for the song. Okay, so thank you very much for listening. And if you have any comments, questions, just put them in the comment box or send me an email. Thank you. Have a nice day. Stay safe and healthy. Take care. Bye.